It's one of those weeks where you have to really carefully consider how much reaction are we going to do to this? How much should we take from this one weird weekend of League of Legends that's in the preseason? And you know what? We do that with utmost care here at Under Talk, which is why everything we are about to say for the next 70, 80 minutes, however long it is going crazy. We're going to overreact all night. That's what the people want. 100 Thieves are terrible. We're so bad. We got to bench everybody. Bench someday. Bench closer. We don't do that here. We don't do that here. Chat got baited. We don't do that here. Welcome to tonight's very measured, very reasonable discussion of 100 Thieves League of Legends. I'm Cole. That's Jordan. And we're here.
This is Under Talk.
Hey, do we need to have like a show intro? I feel like we used to introduce ourselves.
We did. We probably should. I think it's a responsible thing to do as somebody who does podcast. Because this is somebody's first time tuning into 100 Talk. They're looking through their Apple iTunes podcast recommendation engine. It said 100 Talk. What is that? Is that about cars? And they're still confused right now. They're still trying to figure it out.
So
anyway,
in that
Talk.
light, welcome to 100 Talk, where we talk 100 Thieves League of Legends. Jordan and I are not super smart at League of Legends, but we like it, and we like 100 Thieves. Here we are. Here's our podcast. Well, this is probably exactly how I sounded when we first started the podcast back in the Den of Thieves days.
During what days? Excuse me?
The days that shall not be mentioned by name.
When you say it like that, I would say we should never do a podcast intro again. I think it's self-explanatory. But, I don't know. Maybe it's not entirely. Every time Upsurge comes through, I'm like, oh boy, here comes 70 to 80 people who have no idea what they're stumbling into.
Yeah, who don't know we're idiots. So let's quickly explain that to them.
Upsurge, please don't take that as criticism on your raid choices. We love you. Mm-hmm. We appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think your fans are like, who are these two goofballs? But, we do what we can. Cole, I am powered tonight by Rip It Energy Fuel. It's energy for your fuel.
Your fuel needs energy, and that's what Rip It does.
That's right.
It's an additive.
It is. Oh, keeps your fuel from freezing in your energy store.
Jordan, what kind of flavor are you sipping on tonight? Let me re-ask that. Which flavor are you pouring on your white clothing tonight?
I went with white Rip It tonight, Cole, just since I'm pouring it all over my clothes.
They should make that.
Right?
Like Rip It
Power.
Ice.
Power. I want them to make white everything that I can wear with my cream hoodie, because otherwise I don't even bring that thing out the vault.
Well, we can thank my flavor of Rip It tonight for that outrageous intro, because it's F-bomb. We're dropping F-bomb. Hold on. Camera focus. We're dropping F-bombs on them tonight. No, this is a family-friendly stream, but...
Yeah, the only F-bomb we're dropping is fun.
All right. So let's talk about what happened this weekend. What happened was a big sad. Oh, by the way, someone asked me if I have my new jersey yet. The answer is yes. Here it is. So F is for fun. We got reverse swept this weekend, and it wasn't very fun. Now, one of the two of these podcast hosts said that their gut was telling them that we were going to get reverse swept by C9. I'm curious to see how many people remember who that was.
We'll let chat.
I don't. Jordan, do you remember?
I don't.
Which one of the two of us said that?
Let me give you what I remember about last week. I said, well, this is going to give it away. I said, I think we're going to 3-1 them. And for 2 whole games, my prediction was almost right. I was so close to being accurate.
It should have been right. Actually, we'll talk about that. You absolutely should have been right.
I should have been right.
Unfortunately, while I told you that was what my gut was telling me, my heart was telling me, I went with my brain, which I should have learned at my age not to do. And I predicted 100 Thieves win 3-2. I was almost right also. Not as close to being right as you were, actually, in a weird way.
Somehow.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that. Anyway, it was not fun. So instead of going through every game, because there was so much League of Legends and so much of it is sad and just difficult to talk about, we're going to actually go through topically. We've just made some notes about what we saw this past weekend, what stuck out to us from this series, and we'll work in points of the games along the way. So this will be less focused, less intensely concentrated on the games, and more just here's what we noticed, here's what we saw things. So in that light, you can't start any discussion of what we just saw without mentioning the draft. So we need to start there. Jordan.
Okay.
The drafting for this series, problematic or no?
Yes. I'll say yes. But look, it is one of the things on a list of things that if you lose a series and you leave that series saying nothing was problematic, you're probably not being honest with yourself. There were a couple points in the draft where I said, this is a problem. And it wasn't every time. And I think that actually going into this series, I felt like our drafts were pretty dope. Like, I think we outdrafted a lot of people, some of them quite notably where the other team came out and said, boy, did we get outdrafted. So yeah, like this was a stumble for sure. And I think C9 did some interesting stuff, threw some stuff at us that we didn't seem quite prepared for. That Udyr.
Okay, yeah, there's one which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point.
Yeah, we'll get to that too.
Did you notice name me one other thing they did? I've got one other thing.
The big thing? You want me to do the big thing?
But specifically that C9 did.
Dance routine set up for this thing.
Well, we've got the dance about 100 Thieves. I've got my jazz hands ready for that. But
we rehearsed that one a lot.
Just because you talked about C9, I wanted to see if you have a specific observation of that, or if you want to save it for later, that's fine.
I mean, I think they kind of put the squeeze on Damonte a little bit, and they did it in picking up some of these semi-global champs for themselves in mid lane. Got perks on TF a couple times. They took some stuff that was good. They got pulled out a TK, which I'm sure is not like out of meta, but I hadn't seen it in the lock-in. I haven't watched every game, so chat, go easy. But like they pull different looks. My thought looking at C9 draft early, the games 1 and 2, is that they are sort of just having fun with this, right? Like they played some wacky stuff, games 1 and 2. And I don't have the draft list in front of me. I can't point to exactly what it is, but it just felt like they were trying a lot of new things. My sense of C9 is that they are still in figured out mode, which they should be, because they got a lot to figure out. They got 2 major new pieces to try to make sense of. And I think that's how they're approaching this lock-in. I think the fact that they almost reverse swept semis and grand finals means that in week 1, you hope you're not playing C9 in spring, because I think they figured out a lot of stuff, to their credit. Like, I think that's what they viewed this as. That's what they were doing. And I think it started to come together pretty quickly, actually, for them once they got to that point.
Yeah. And I mean, not to just talk about C9 the whole time, especially at the beginning of the podcast, but I think you're right. I think that C9 is figuring some things out. And we saw, because we talked about the Udyr pick, and we'll say that more. We'll say more on that specifically. But they did it with a few different looks, and I thought their game 2 draft was, first of all, one of the most toxic team comps I could imagine. But also a really kind of cool concept, right? So their game 2 draft was Udyr, Seraphine, Yone, Tarek, Graves. Okay. Yeah. And so they were using that Tarek people nearby him get the stun thing like a super interesting way, because the Yone would just crazy dive forward and try and get that stun and then let everybody follow up. And I thought that like looked so cool as it was going on. And I was like, oh man, this is like this is them really seeing how out of control that comp could get. And if I'm being honest, which we'll talk about later, I think that we maybe got away with that game a little bit, and it came really close to working, but it didn't for them. And they made that tweak, and they changed the bot lane to the Senatom Kench, which was something I don't like, because we were on a new patch we hadn't seen before, and it was clearly pretty dang strong and pretty dang annoying. So I thought I think your read on what they're doing in draft is right, and it's almost like we did. I can't tell if we were trying to do that or not, and it doesn't seem like we were.
We weren't getting wacky. They were playing like, wacky league.
For us, it almost felt like our draft technique is to not give anything away yet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? It felt like we're trying to play something until someone beats us, and then we'll make a slight modification to it. So it's like, we're not trying to pull out crazy stuff like they did.
Yeah. The vibe I get from C9 is that they all sit around the strategy session beforehand and be like, somebody throw out like a weird combo, and he's like, what if you put a Taric with a Yone and use the weird dashy thing to stun somebody in the backline? How crazy would that be? We're doing it. And I think, we had what felt like a much more traditional, which, by the way, when you are strong, coming from a position of strength, not always great to throw out what's working to try your weird and wacky zany comp. Like, we would be talking a lot about that if that's what we've done.
For sure, that's fair.
So no, I wouldn't hold that against them at all. So in that sense, C9 is kind of coming from a position of strength, in that people don't really know what to expect from best looking C9 yet. There was one thing specifically we did that I had to mention, and I've seen chat mentioning it too, but are you ready for us to talk about what we did?
Let's go
a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one of the things that's been a question mark for us has been how likely is it that we get Damonte onto some of these best look champs for him, right? And I think his pool, what we've seen is his pool is big enough so as to not feel completely restrictive when it comes time to do pick bans. I don't know why we put him on set and why we put Huhi on Galio. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I rewatched the pick ban last night, and they, up until 20 seconds into the choose your loadout, they were assuming that it was Galio mid and set support. And they were talking about all the things I was thinking about, which is like, hey, this is great. 2 of the best champs for these guys, super comfortable, all this stuff. This is kind of how he made his name. And then, like, that was our zany look, I think. And it didn't work. And I don't know what I'm sure there was something behind that. It wasn't just that they forgot or thought it would be funny to not swap. Like, they saw something in the enemy team's comp they were reacting to and trying to, counter in some way. But man, I feel like we haven't seen us get beat with our strongest look forward enough to make me not feel like that's our best bet at this point. Does that make sense? Like, I think we're still that team at our best. And if somebody's going to give us that team, I think we make them beat that team, because I don't see that team lose a lot in lock-in.
Yeah, and that's fair. And we do need to temper this with, like, we barely lost a best of 5 to either the second or third best team in LCS. So it's
right.
The world is not ending here, but it just was so weird to me.
It's a question that I have.
I legit, like, so my notes, and I was doing a VOD squad stream. So I watched this whole series on stream with people. I was talking to them as this was going on. And so, like, if you watch me during the game 4 draft, when this set and Galio thing happened, I'm sitting there like, yeah, no, I think this is good. This is what we want, right? Like, we've got Talia's great OP jungler right now. Some days on the Jax. Yeah. Zai I'm not crazy about, but we've got the Galio for Damonte and set for Huhi. And I'm like taking my notes, and you look at my notes like, oh yeah, I like this comp for us. I think this and this is going to happen. And all of a sudden, wait, why are we set mid? Yes. And why is Galio support? So we may have just outsmarted ourselves. You know what I mean? It's like we may have been trying to make this long play where it's like, hey, look, if we win a game against a quality team where we flipped those picks, then you don't know where it's going. And then you have for the next several weeks, people are going to say, what are they going to do here? When they see the Galio locked in, how do we know this is a mid lane pick? Maybe it's a support pick. And vice versa with the set. Right. So there
you see really good teams do that.
Yeah.
You do.
So it's almost like we tried to get cute and play the long game, but it cost us the series, which, I mean, we should have won that game 4. Like, to me, that was when we really lost it. Like, when you say 3-1 and I say, yeah, I think you were the most right, that's what I mean. It's because I get that game 4, I thought for us would have been ours if we didn't do this creative lane swapping.
Yeah.
But it happened.
I think to come back to your point, right? Like, and I guess maybe this is a transition to a different topic, so I'll let you take us there if that's where you want to go. But, on the draft, if I think about it overall, like, I'm not mad, right? Like, I'm not scolding Zix right now. Like, he tried some stuff. Like, I think you got to look at this and say, I have to assume that Udyr gets hit hard with the nerf in 11.3 or 4 probably at this point. So
I can't take it.
It's a very dumb and boring champion to watch. Like, Udyr has long been he's won the award for dumbest champion in League of Legends. I'm very sorry to all of the Udyr mains out there who've been playing him since season 1. I get it. I am not being respectful to history. He is not at all fun to watch. He is a very straightforward champion with a kit that, like, that is the joke when you look at the tooltips. I'm guessing each one of his tooltips is 1 to 2 sentences max. And, probably spends more time talking about, like, why the Phoenix is part of his kit or why he turns into a turtle. Like, it's just not fun to watch. Like, you compare that to some of the others, like Jin, it's just boring. So I hope he's gone. I hope they hotfix him out, in fact. And in large part because he's busted. He's so busted. It's not even fun to watch.
Well, and my thing with Udyr, because like I'm actually not close to done with this topic with the draft. I've got a lot more to say. So
let's prepare
yourselves. But with one of the biggest things for that, Chip, was like, why did we continue to let it through? Because even though we won game 2, it was dang close and should not have been. And we had trouble with the Udyr the whole time. Like, it was problematic to deal with. It was very hard to kill. And it's like, okay, look, this is kind of a problem, right? And then you win the game, so it's like, okay, maybe it wasn't that game breaking, but then they play at game 3 again with a different, stronger comp, and they win, and it's like, okay, we're having the same problem with him, but this time they won the game. That trend isn't moving in the direction you want it to move it. You know what I mean? So it's like, so why don't we just think about getting rid of it? But we did not. You know what I mean? And
Closer didn't play him once, right? Closer never took Udyr?
He didn't. And funny enough, game 4, they didn't play him. But then he was right back in game 5 to absolutely destroy us. You know what I mean? So
basically decided the finals too, while we're on the topic.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. I haven't made it all the way through that series. I only made it through like game 3.5. I got through half of game 4 and fell asleep. But you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. Did we really not want to use a ban on that champion at some point?
Or throw Closer on. If we're blue side and we get first pick and you want to take it, like, if you see how busted it is, I guarantee you they know how busted it is.
Like, we banned Kai'Sa and Lucian. Is that really higher priority than the Udyr champion who like ran us over quite literally?
Well, especially since you give the MF to Sven, and we saw how that worked, right? Like, that's hindsight, but and that's a pretty dang good champ in his hands at this rate.
And look, not to disclaimer this again, but it's like, I know I'm not like a League of Legends analyst. You know what I mean? So I know there's something I'm not getting about what the situation was. Then come out and tell us. Then someone say, this is what we are going for. At some point, even if it's not this week, if it's later in the season when this is no longer a meta thing, it's like, I just want to know what that was about. Because
maybe the heist.
Maybe the heist. But just from the outside, it's like, I can't explain that one, man. I can't explain it. So it's kind of weird. Also in the kind of weird category, which I think maybe I heard you say you actually liked this, but Closer and Lilia, did you say you were fine with that?
I really dislike that.
Okay, good.
I didn't say that.
Jordan's getting crazy defensive. Good. You should, because that was weird. I mean, look, do you know when Closer played Lilia previously, it was against CLG. Did you know that was the game we lost kind of bad to CLG?
Yeah.
You know, and Closer specifically was not effective. It's
not a good champ for him.
Yeah,
it's not.
It's not at all. It was like the lightning Pokemon against the ground type or whatever, or rock type or whatever it is. I don't even know my Pokemon matchups well enough, but you know what I mean? It's like, it's not very effective. And
it is,
and I look, again, I have been probably the primary praise singer of Closer this season. I told you before this week, I was like, he is my MVP of 100 Thieves. Not the case anymore. Giving that to Huhi. But anyway, up until that point, I was like, I think Closer is playing the best on this team. But the Lilia pick just isn't quite his style, man. It's just not quite his style. And so picking that up in like, I don't know. I guess I can't be too mad because it was game 3 when we were up 2-0. So maybe it's like, all right, we've got a little wiggle room. But game 3 opened the door in a very terrible way. And we and talk about it later, but we tilted, I think, in game 3. And dang, man, the Lilia pick was not helping us there. Do you have any other piece to say on Lilia? Because I said I have one more thing to bring up. Two more things, actually.
This is what I think we got to get away from. And look, here's the caveat again. Lessons learned, right? Like 0-2 now on Lilia. I don't care if the champ is shiny and new and overtuned. If it doesn't fit to our style, let's just stay away from it. Like, feel free to give that to them, and then we counter pick with Olaf. You know, like, if we've seen how that goes a number of times, thanks to Closer himself. So, and
we banned Olaf, by the way, in that game.
Yeah, I can't
because we were planning on picking the Lilia. Yeah, so
right, and that's a nightmare. But also, I hope that we don't get kind of trapped in this meta champs set our style kind of thing. Although here's the counterpoint to that, right? We just talked about why didn't he play Udyr. I guess probably doesn't like Udyr. If I had to guess, I'd say he's not a super Udyr fan like me.
Probably the same reason we haven't seen FBI on Jhin, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I don't know. All this to say, that Lilia, I don't really like it. As a champion in general, like I don't think it does it a ton. I've seen it work. Obviously, I've watched League of Legends before, but it just doesn't fit our style. We need to have we're burst, man. And I'm telling you,
firepower, Jordan. Firepower.
Sorry, I forgot the phrase. I have seen many a fight with Lilia where she hits the sleep and then somebody knocks it off with this, like silly little like tick damage. It's like, wow, that was really cool. Good ultimate, like, they were drowsy and then asleep for a fraction of a second. That was a game changer. So I'm not convinced that it's a champ that is going to be one that fits in our style. And clearly it's not one that fits in Closer's preferences on how to play the game. Let's just move away from it. Call it done. Hand it over.
Yeah. Well, we didn't. We picked it and played it and lost.
Mm-hmm.
We did one more thing, which kind of like double forks, I guess, for me. And that is that we played Rise with Damonte. And we didn't play it once. We didn't play it twice. We got 3 games of Rise from Damonte this weekend.
Could have had a okay.
No, it didn't. Again, so we're all doing retroactive analysis.
Best kind.
Retrospective. Sorry, not retroactive. Damonte won the game 2 on Rise, but it was by far his worst looking game of the season, right?
with a win.
He was 2, 3, and 4. He got a win. No, he looked better against CLG than he did on the Rise. That we won this game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Gilded Nova's pointing out he didn't take cleanse. Look, I'm cool if we want to try the Rise pick out once. I'm cool with it. I don't love it, but I'm cool with it. I get it. It's like, Damonte has these picks that can be pretty mobile. The party portal's good.
Yeah, that was my thought.
He can split push with it. Cool.
Yeah.
We tried it. We got a win. Didn't look good though. I would not have felt comfortable picking it again. In fact, I wasn't, and noted that I wasn't. But we did, and then he gets smashed.
Some days a better Rise.
Yeah,
I don't mean any insult. Somebody's a great weak side split champ or a split player.
Yeah, and I
think that is Rise at his best. Because this was not team fight Rise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he did not show up to team fights and take over by any means.
Yeah. But we decided we wanted to try it again after it looked pretty bad. And look, and Dr. Null, I don't like to read chat when we do the podcast because we're talking about what we're talking about, right? But while I watched this, and I may have even said this on stream, if I didn't, I at least thought it. There was that one escape he had with the portal down in bot lane where he got away from what should have been a certain death, right?
Yep.
When I watched that play, I said, people are going to defend the Rise pick off of that one play. And Dr. Nolly said the Damonte juke with the portal was sick, though. And it's like, I knew that would happen. Just because he got away once doesn't mean it was a good pick.
Let me add another one to the list. There was one where he TP'd into mid very dangerously, right? He's basically split from the rest of the team. TP, you remember this TP? I believe it was game 2.
The caution to the wind TP?
I believe it was game 2. And he gets ego chased. I think I tweeted about this by 4 or 5 members of Cloud. They traded a Drake for a Damonte kill, which was very hilarious.
Yeah. It was so weird.
He got out, he threw down the room prison, he hit phase rush, and he was gone. He was gone. They caught him. They did eventually catch him, but it took them the entirety of our Drake take to get him. So, yeah, there was some utility plays. This felt like utility Rise to me. Like, he delivered some people via party portal to some important places at cool times. Like, he hit a full team quick to the Baron move. That was fun. Here's what I'll say. And his laning wasn't like bad, right? He kept
I think in almost every game, he was doing okay.
Yeah. So it's not like he's this huge liability on the champion, but I agree with you. He's been so much more dangerous on a lot of the others that we've seen. And I will say, the style of game that we like to play, I can absolutely 100% see how Rise is a champion that our team has said, put that in the lineup. It makes a lot of sense, honestly. I just think we have to figure out how to get him not only to be like slippery and cool and, hitting some moves on people, but also like a threat level max in team fights, because Rise can be that.
Yeah, we didn't ever get into those situations where it's like, okay, there's a 5v5 team fight and we kind of corral them into a space and Rise is just EQ or EQ, right? Like, we did not get that at all.
Like, you out people, you crit
right
nonstop, and they're dead. They're all dead. But we never really got that.
Yeah. So, and it's like, so we lost game 3 and it looked bad. Like, the Rise looked bad, And then we had the nerve to pick it again in the clinching game. And it's worse than that, because in that draft position, they had Camille. And Galio was on the table. So it's like a champion that we know Damonte has popped off on like multiple times this split. And we just let it go. We just let it go. Camille Galio is like one of the classic like combo ult situations, right?
Camelio,
and we just we just let it happen like it was nothing and put the dude on Rise. It was just so weird to me. In a clinching game, too. It's like, if you want to experiment for a couple games when you have a 2-0 lead, cool, but try and win the 5th, And it was so weird. It was like game 5. Yes, play Udyr, please. Oh, you have Camille? Okay, well, we're going to just let you have Galio also. even though, you know, our guy is strong on that pick. Let's try him on Rise. That to me was so weird and sad. I felt like we could have won if we just, like, literally, if we take a Galio there, maybe we win that game. It was a stomp, so I don't know. Maybe we were too tilted at that point, but dang, man, that was disappointed.
The other thing that is a bit confusing to me is you don't need to look further back than the start of the series to see where Damonte. I mean, he played Galio game 1, right? I'm not misremembering that.
Yeah, Galio was his first game.
Dang good.
He was 1-0-12. It's like a very Damonte stat line.
He looked better than Perks in that game because he played way better than Perks in that game. Right? Like, if you compare their performances in game 1, it wasn't, you couldn't argue that Perks was a better player in that game because he wasn't. So that is where I think I come back to it. It's like, it's not like he had a bad week on Galio and then was like, dude, I just don't want to play Galio anymore. Come on, guys. Like, don't make me play Galio. I don't like that champ. He played a game 1 and popped off and had a great performance and, you know, like built a name for himself. So I don't know. We got to figure that out. Everything that I'm saying, here's the thought that I keep coming back to. I hope that it was just them saying, it's just lock in, you know, like we're just out here to learn and have some fun. But I don't know. I don't know on that one.
Yeah.
Because if it's not just you doing that, like you are inting. And
we saw an int or two out of Damonte, micro ints, right?
Like, he did try to take on Perks one-on-one in the jungle and got slapped.
And he was just in places that he shouldn't have been. Like there was this one time where, you know, their team was retreating into mid lane from Dragon Pit and he had full vision, like saw them walk into the brush, knew that they hadn't gone back and just kept walking. And when it happened on stream, I was like, whoa. And then chat was like, oh, maybe he thought they backed. There wasn't enough time to even complete a back. He just walked straight into it. I don't know what the plan was.
If you face check a jungle and it's not your jungle and you don't know where the enemy team is, sometimes they get you. Sometimes they get you.
Now, and let's just keep going on Damonte right now because that's a thing. Because we talked about the draft aspect of it. We have to talk about the other aspect of it too. And before I do that, I see this in chat. Jordan, we're wondering, what are the phrases that need to be banned for this year? What will be the first phrase that we need to kick from the lexicon? Limit testing has got to go. All right. We're done with limit testing. We found the limit of using limit testing. Let's get rid of it. Okay. Let's get rid of it. Okay.
It's gone.
You can just say we're messing around or something. I don't know. But anyway, so Damonte, like, I had to just publicly own the fact that he was crushing it up until this weekend, like exceeding my expectations wildly, and looking like stats wise, looking like one of the best players in the whole league. Okay. Then he had the good game 1 on Galio, 1-0-12. And look, yes, KDA is not the be all end all. There's much more to games like that, especially for a player like Damonte. But game 2 Rise, 2, 3, and 4, we get a win. Don't like it, but pick Rise again. Game 3, he's 0-5-10. At least still got some assists, but lost the game, wasn't good. Then we do the weird set pick. He's 0-3-3, and then Rise 1-7-0 in game 5. This man completely tanked his KDA. Like, he had died like 6 times total up to this point. My man died. What was that? 10, 15 times in this series. Okay, there goes that stat. You know what I mean? There's so much gold generated from his dying this weekend.
Well, how many deaths? You lose 3 games, you're gonna die. How many deaths did other members of the team have? And you might not have that handy, but I'm sure that our overall KDAs have taken a hit from the weekend.
I know, but it's just like the point with Damonte was he like looked like a monster for a while. He was not the monster this weekend. He looked like the Damonte I remember from when I was telling you this pick is going to be our weak point. You know what I mean? And I hope that changes. I was really pleasantly surprised with him up until this week. Who knows? He played Rise for 3 games and Set for a game. We get him back on what he knows and likes better. Maybe he'll go right back to popping off like crazy. And good for him if that's the case. I really hope that. I genuinely would love to have been wrong about that.
Let me
man,
say
his MVP case for 100 Thieves just like completely went out the window this weekend, and that makes me big sad.
Here's one of my nightmare scenarios. And look, I don't think we need to go too far down. But here's the vibe I get, right? Like, remember Stunt. Remember how many times Stunt played Nautilus? And remember how confused we were. Like, this is not his best. I mean, is it his best champ? It's not working that well. We keep picking it for him. I just don't want us to, like, I think I have some kind of pent up nervous energy about, like, are we going to start to see Damonte on Rise all the time? I don't want to see that. And I don't have any reason to think we will, but boy, it makes me a little bit nervous to think about. So,
well, strap in, Jordan. The season's just getting started.
Like, if we pick Rise for Damonte in game 1, week 1, I'm going to have a quiet moment by myself.
I'm going to have a loud moment in public. You can have your quiet moment. I'm going loud on Twitter when that happens. All right.
Okay.
And look, just it bears repeating. We barely lost in a close series against who's probably the second best team in the LCS, or third, us being the second. Like, you know, it's like we lost a close thing to a good team.
Yep.
Oh, just got to keep telling myself that, but it just feels like we could have had control, man. And there was probably, and I'm done with Damonte, I think. Are you done with talking Damonte? So there was a moment where it felt like the momentum just shifted, you know? And you can kind of sense it when it happens. Just like, yet another NBA analogy, but it's like, you know, when someone starts heating up and you can feel them start to heat check. It was kind of like that. And that was the game 3 tower dive where we sent, how many did we send there? I think we sent 3 to bot side.
4 at one point, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, and it went so poorly from us. Yeah, it was a 3-man gank attempt. And all it was, like, it was so close to being successful. But Sven ulted, he Senna ulted, whoever it was that was under tower. I mean, it must have been Vulcan. I think it was Vulcan on TK. Senna ulted him out of like the well. I think he was walking back to lane or something, and just kept him alive through the gank, which made us stay longer to finish the kill. And then we just ended up giving over everything because we overstayed, and then everyone showed up, and we didn't even finish the kill off on Vulcan. So we went 0 for 3 on that play. And that came after, I think, like a couple of failed ganks, which we had not really seen. Closers gank success is something I've pointed to every week, had been crazy high. This dude was always getting something, always getting a kill or a summoner spell or something.
Right.
He had a couple of unsuccessful ganks in this, like it really didn't go well. And then that failed 3-person dive. From that moment, I got that sickening feeling, you know, where it's like, okay, we're about to throw the series. Was it just tilt?
Well, let me propose what else it could have been. Right.
Okay.
This was the first time we had seen any team successfully, turn us away from bot lane.
Right.
And they did it emphatically. It was, I mean, to a certain degree, like we have weathered a lot. We've got hit, we've got level 1 killed, and we've always managed to stay with it and continue to fight.
It's like a characteristic of this team. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think that in some of these, it was too much, right? Like you give 3 kills real quick over and you fast forward 22 minutes and Sven has a pentakill, right? Like I think that can happen, where a lot of these things are close, and it, in a certain light, it makes you appreciate the kind of surgical execution of all these dives, because it shows you just how little has to go against you for one of them to fall apart, especially early on, where one tower shot really will turn one of these fights completely on its head. But I think it's probably something about that too. So yeah, were we tilted? Perhaps. Were we also just at a bigger disadvantage than maybe we've been, where we left not only with nothing at that point, that pivotal point in the game where we typically leave with a lot, we didn't have the ability to start to kind of make some of those macro plays that we typically do at that time of the game. We were still on our back foot when we're usually converting that specific dive into a Drake, into a Rift Herald, into first turret, into whatever else. So,
and you said the magic words right there, which was at that time in the game. Yep. And I think what has started to become apparent is that mid game we're a little lost. We have a little bit of a what are we doing thing during the mid game, which is weird because we've had some quick wins, including game 1 of this series was like 24-minute win, right?
Yeah, it's very fast.
But it just seems like we're not as decisive during the mid game. It's like early game, we know what to do. And you're talking about you take a huge punch from the other squad, and it's just like, usually we respond. Like TL got the double kill in bot lane level 1 on us. And what do we do? We turned it
single kill, but yeah.
No, it was double, wasn't it?
I think who he survived, escaped.
Okay. Well, I must be remembering that wrong. But either way, it was like an immediate lose lane situation. Yeah, Closer came out and saved that. And then not only one dive, but he came again a second time to make sure that we in fact were in control of that lane. You know what I mean? It's like we have that game plan early. Yeah. But in the mid game, it doesn't feel like we're so sure about how to counterpunch. And that's why for me, when you're talking about that and you say at that point in the game, it's like, once it's not about closer getting all over the map unexpectedly, things are a little shakier.
Yeah. And it kind of, for me, it's, if you die level 1, right? Basically at first wave, you are back in lane basically with second wave. I don't know the exact timing on that, but it's not like he lost so much that he was at a permanent disadvantage.
Sure.
Right. I think if you lose that gank when we typically like to make it, you stand to lose a lot more. So, the timing I think is a big piece, and that'll be interesting to see, because look, if teams learn how to, it's kind of like you remember the Clutch Gaming had their Rift Herald take every game, 14 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Collect that Rift Herald, turned into some free gold. Eventually teams learned, right? So if eventually teams can learn, whatever it takes, make sure you have somebody ready, a TP that's got to hit immediately as soon as closer shows, have something ready no matter what, even if you have to give up, 10 CS in your top lane, but don't let them get that dive. If other teams figure that out, that's going to be a problem for us. We have to stay dynamic enough where we can make that not telegraphed. And I don't think it is right now, because we have seen closer go top. We have seen different combinations of people show up in bot lane. So I don't think it's so apparent what we're going to do every game that it's easy. But I think a really good team like Cloud9 can do that, be prepared for that. And it even took them a few tries, right? That was not game 1.
Yeah.
But eventually, that was a big one. That hurt.
So that brings up another question, is that, you're saying it took him a couple tries to figure out what, how to counter that. The question then is, are we built for best of 5s yet? because that like none. It doesn't matter how well you play best of ones as soon as playoffs roll around. You know,
right?
Are we built for best of fives? Are we too solvable for teams? Are we too straightforward? Last week I went over. Here are the 5 pieces of the 100 Thieves play style that I've noticed so far, right?
Mm.
And if a team can solve that, what's next for us? You know what I mean? So 5 games is a lot of games to play against somebody. You start to figure out some things. It's early though. It's lock-in time. Do you think that that's what's next for us, is figuring out how to like series proof this team? Or, you know, where do you come down on this question?
I think it for me, the first thing you have to ask, if you are the team asking this question of yourselves, are we ready for best of 5? I think you have to ask, if we put Galio mid and set bot, do we win that game? Because if the answer to that is yes, then you're ready for best of 5s, because people haven't yet solved your best look. And until people solve that, it doesn't really matter how many games you play, because all you got to do is win it 3 times. And if people only beat that once every 9 or 10 games, you're going to win every best of 5. And eventually people will solve it. We saw it with C9, right? It'll happen. It's just a matter of when, and, you know, I guess how fully solved you are when that happens. Nightmare scenario, worst case scenario is you're fully solved, and anybody basically can deploy the fix, which is what we started to see with C9. So,
and it's what we saw with ourselves last year.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we got hard solved. I think this team, I'm pretty well convinced that our best look will still beat the majority of the league. I really do. If we can get it. And I think the one of the good things about our best look right now is that there are enough facets to it. It's not just the same 5 champions in the same 5 positions, that it is easily solved with ban. So, I mean, I think technically, yes. If we can get figured out the types of things we're looking at doing in the C9 series, I think we are a lot more ready for a best of 5 against one of the other top 3 teams. Right now, I don't think we're quite there.
I would say something that seems at this point in the year to distinguish us from previous years is that we do seem to have more of a champion pool to play out of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're still limit testing that. We're still working on it, right? It didn't feel like we had a lot of options for draft last year. Anytime you have rich draft options, then that means you can play a best of 5. So I would say that maybe that's the one lesson that we should take from this tournament, is like, okay, we have to make sure we have an executable strategy of variety, different looks to throw in a best of 5, and then we're pretty good. Because like you're saying, most teams are still going to lose to us. It seems like most teams are still going to have trouble playing us, even if we're doing what we do.
Right.
So that's a good place to be in. That is way better than like where we were at last year. You know what I mean? So,
oh, for sure. No arguing that.
I feel even though this weekend hurt on a couple levels, like I feel good with that takeaway. You know, is that like we're in a much closer position to being ready to contend than we ever hit at any time last season.
Yeah, especially day one, right? Usually day one has been a complete toss-up. Which way is it going to go? So partial credit to Lock-In and the format for giving us confidence in how we can play. But yeah, I don't think by any means this is like sound the alarm, scramble the roster. Like, I think we're in good shape. There's some question marks. You know, maybe we could even talk about the value of those question marks. Like, you had talked about wanting to see us get popped and have a loss. So, you know, here it is. Like, we now
Not
know,
like this, man.
You got to be careful how you ask for that loss. It's going to come one way or the other. So, but I mean, like, you have a lot that you've learned, right? That I would hope. This is something we always come back to on the pod, is what have you learned from this experience? rhetorically asked to the people.
We're just gonna morph into one of those like life advice Twitter accounts. You know, what have you learned from this difficulty? Strive for greatness. Yeah. Okay. You had a few topics that you inserted in on this series, and I want to hear you talk about them first, so that I can decide whether I agree with you or whether our friendship is over.
Okay. Ooh, the stakes are high. Okay. I was watching the highlights back for I watched the whole series over highlight form, which then you do that trying to refresh yourself, and they blur all into one mega game again, so it doesn't actually help. Here's my hypothesis. The games didn't feel that close because we ended up losing them. But a lot of the games were actually quite close, and we were in them and competitive beyond the point that I think a lot of like steamrolls go. Like one of the games ended with just a couple K gold difference when they knocked down the Nexus. So it was like 53 to 51K gold or something. You know, it's not like we were down 12K gold and they were just walking into our base. Like there were fights where we still won after the point that we started to lose. And there were points in the game where it looked like we could stage a comeback in these games. So
what do you say about game 5 though? With everything on the line.
I have said things about game 5 already.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm not saying all of the games were super close, because I know that we did lose. You know, it wasn't always close.
That was a romp. That was a stomp. That was a domp and a comp.
Yeah.
Any omp words? That's what that was, man.
So yeah, my point here is not that it was close throughout and that we almost won every game, but I don't feel like every game was a very clear loss at 15 minutes, which a lot of games of League of Legends are, if we're being fair. And my secondary point on this is that there were some incredibly close fights, and there were a couple that Someday himself was involved in where 9 out of 10 times he wills himself to deal 20 more damage and the person dies. So
he spirit bombed energy people.
Basically, he presses a button hard enough and it does a little bit of kicker damage. So those fights, honestly, if those go a different way, that game might look differently. And that is just, I think, a good example of there will be games like this, like the games we've talked about, where those go differently. And Someday leaves with a kill, or he leaves with 2 kills instead of 1 for the other team. Or at the very least, the enemy jungler leaves having wasted a bunch of time and not really having anything to show for it. So it was close, Cole, and it could have gone differently.
Do you know why I'm doing
this?
Even
actually, there were a couple dives, I think, where some incredibly clutch shields and heals that kept people alive. I think I remember a fudge. Yeah, it was when he was playing Lulu. We dove him, and he was saved from death probably 4 separate times. It was insane.
Okay. Do you want to know why I'm Birdman hand rubbing this whole time?
Yes. You have the perfect rebuttal.
Yeah. Well, I won't call it a perfect rebuttal, but I have a rebuttal. Just something to think about. Okay. The point being, if I'm understanding you correctly, fights were super close down to the wire. That little bit of extra something for them broke the fights for their direction, and we ended up losing.
Fights. Not all fights. Some fights.
Okay. And that ended up being an advantage to them, which led them to victory. Right? As you know, it's like if you barely win, if you get into a huge 5v5, one team gets 3 kills and one team gets 1 kill, but 2 of their people had 5 health left, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It does not matter. It's as if they had full health bars. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, right.
Do you know the thing about that is which team is supposed to be the team that has that advantage, that little extra something that helps them win the fights? Because it ain't the team that replaced 2 very significant players. It's the team that's been together and has the pre-existing synergy. What you're saying is true, but that advantage is supposed to be in our favor. That's supposed to be something we have over them, not they have over us. Fudge playing like doo-doo. Perks hasn't looked like himself at all. You know what I mean? And like, we're supposed to be the like, we have things together at an earlier stage than them. And up to this series, it seemed like a lot of fights played out that way. It was like, man, the synergy that they have during these fights, like, is the difference. It's like the reason why we're getting out of here, you know, with 4 kills instead of losing everything. It's because this team just knows how to do that. So I think like the principle is right, but it's just like, I don't know how to score that in my head because, again, I agree with what you're saying in that C9 does seem to be getting away with these really like closely fought battles and stuff. But if that's actually an advantage that we have on paper, it's like, does that mean we're even further worse once they catch up? Yeah. That's my
some of these were in isolation, right? So some days plays happen on Someday Island, and you know, you take that play and you put it in any one of the 3 seasons he's played for us, and 9 times out of 10 it's a kill for him.
Yeah.
So that doesn't factor in the same. I get what you're saying.
Because like when I read it, I think about the team fights. I think about the team fights mid game, late game.
Yeah. I think I said this at the start of the pod. I'm afraid that Perks has come alive a little bit. He looked like Perks in some of these games.
I don't think so. Still, I think
yeah,
he looked better.
He was looking a lot like Perks.
He looked better, but yeah. You got to remember, this dude was a freak of nature. Like,
and in the TL series, he's not Perks, so clearly he's not fully arrived yet. But yeah,
I think he's got a way to go still. I agree that he played better against us than he has this season. You know what I mean? And was it him? Yeah, I think he was also among the people who said 100T is hard to play against.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so he's giving credit where credit's due, but gosh, I don't know, man. And look, okay, but like Fudge is inexplicable. Like Fudge is just playing awful, and there's no defense for that, you know? So I don't know. I felt dubious about that point for those reasons. It's just, I feel like when we are doing the calculus, right, about predicting this game, that was one of the things that seemed to be on paper in our direction. It's like, okay, top lane, I think we got a little bit of advantage. We may even have some kind of weird advantage in mid lane. And then team synergy has been like a plus for us on the stat sheet. So dang.
And I think we could have been having this conversation to say we were right. We did have an advantage in the mid. Because if more of the games look like game 1 than not, we would be saying, yeah, that was the difference.
Yeah. Okay. Should we move on to general here?
Yeah, we should.
Okay.
We should.
So Jordan, I think lock-in has been really cool. I actually really enjoyed the tournament. I think starting out with the tournament is almost like a cheat code in that there's more to care about. You know, because it's not just like preseason games or whatever. But I've had fun watching it, and I've cared more about it than I thought I would. And I've said a few times, I think that the players and teams care about it more than they're letting on also. It just feels like people are trying, you know?
Yep.
Or we're trying, I guess now it's over. So we obviously care about the lock-in results. But do we care about the lock-in results? You see what I'm saying? It's like, we cared, we were trying, we wanted this.
Yeah.
But like, there's the temptation to let that mean we're overgeneralizing. We're taking too much out of this tournament. We got, let's see, what did this end up being? 12 games for us. So we got 6 weeks. What would normally be 6 weeks of League of Legends.
Yeah.
In previous years, we got out of this.
That's great.
Is that
I'm 0% mad about that.
Me either. Yeah, but so it's like, where's the line? Did this matter? Did this show us real things or not?
I mean, I think it showed us real things for sure. I've said it the last couple of weeks since we talked about lock-in, but like any team who showed up without the intent of trying to find what works well for them, they're the actual losers, right? Like they have, not that they're like, they're losers. They have lost lock-in because every other team is going to be that much further ahead than them so far as, strategic development, identifying what works and what doesn't work. So, I think, we're better for this without a doubt. I think we have kind of accelerated the integration of these players into Zix's strategic kind of world that he's in, and we're trying things out very clearly. So I think for me, that's why I'm not super mad about like losing. It is hard, and I get 100% what you're asking with this question. It's like, as a fan, I hated that outcome. I really, it was so close to being great. And, but, then I have to go to, week 1. And I think like, if I see Rise, I will weep. And I know that because of lock-in. Lock-in has taught me that it's conditioned me.
It's if I could just interject real quick, it's almost like, do you remember during the JBL Quantum Cup Valorant event, which was totally exhibition, where like there is one way that this matters, that the result from this matters at all. Only one scenario where that's the case, and that would be when someone 13-0 somebody, and that's exactly what we did to Envy. You remember that? Right. Similarly to that, it feels like there was one way where this series feels bad, and that was to get reverse swept. And because I am a fan of 100 Thieves, that's what happened to 100 Thieves.
You brought your curse and you delivered it gift wrapped to the team. Yeah. It does. Yeah. It would have been better to lose 3-1. Right.
Right. I would much rather rather gotten 3-0'd than to get swept. Gosh, it just feels so nasty. It feels dirty. I need a shower. Anything else on this before we hit our last general? Okay. So the final question, we're going to do listener takes after this. So it's not like the final of this pod, but, so full disclosure, I did not hop on and read all the takes from Reddit, and I didn't read a ton of Twitter regarding this series because I felt like I kind of knew what people would say. Plus I was busy, whatever. But I think there's one theme that almost certainly showed up, and it's a question that maybe not a question, but maybe just an observation that we just have to put out there. We picked up, this is Golden Guardians, right? They are now the Kind Boy Guardians. Their last playoff run ended in a reverse sweep before they were picked up by us, in kind of embarrassing and similar fashion. Now they just had their first best of 5 and got reverse swept. Do we have, I don't know what else to call it, but choker DNA? And if so, what do we do about this?
It's cool. You got to get your mind right.
Hey, let me ask this a different way.
Yeah.
If we get reverse swept one more time, how can we not say we have choker DNA?
Well, it's either that or you have cursed. You've been cursed. You need to exorcise that bad juju.
What was the curse of the Bambino? Like we got to do some sacrifice a goat or whatever to get rid of the.
Yeah, there's a goat involved.
I mean, I'm not doing animal sacrifice, but I'm willing to consider other purging rituals. I'll buy whatever crystals we need because I just can't get reverse swept one more time.
Yeah, look, I hate being reverse swept. It's happened to 100 Thieves before, if I'm not mistaken. TSM?
Mm-hmm.
Did we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Good. Yep.
Yes, we got reverse swept.
Yeah, it felt horrible then too.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. We won't know for a while, so don't hold your breath because, Cole, this one's going to sneak up on you if it happens. And I don't buy into it too much because I think there are equal parts. You could look at people who weren't at Golden Guardians the last time this happened and say, I'm thinking back specifically to the draft to say that feels like a pivotal moment where if done differently, this could have gone a very different way. So unless the people who were, who got tilted at the wrong time or who got into a bad mental space in that last series where the reverse sweep happened, unless they, transferred that, they didn't do the proper social distancing and they passed it to Zix, then I don't know how this could be a full-on DNA issue. Unless you're saying Zix has got it too, then I don't know what we're in a lot of trouble then.
Look, here's the deal. It needs to be that, or else the only other conclusion is that it's me. And I have to sacrifice myself for the cause. I don't want to do that.
We'll send you to the other team that's most likely to reverse sweep us, Cole, just to really, really.
I don't want to be a TSM fan, man.
I don't either. I don't want that for you.
Goodness gracious. What a lowly state that would be.
How the mighty have fallen.
Oh, Cole. God. All right.
You're a fan of the TSM gank now, so you're one step the way there.
It's not bad when we do it, right? That's the universal truth of being a fan. Okay, all right. I'm just making that observation. Unfortunately, putting it out into the ether makes it worse, but had to be done because otherwise it's me, and that's unacceptable. So, with that piece being said, let's hit listener questions on the way out. We'll have to look at we'll have to do some week 1 predictions, because if I'm not mistaken, I think we have 3 games.
Oh my gosh. I don't know who we're playing in any of them.
So we'll get to that in a minute. Well, in several minutes. Listener questions and takes. Jordan, you are going first. Let me pull one from Undertalk moderator BC. He says, honestly, I'm not all that worried. We have all of spring to iron out draft and mid and late game macro. We have a lot of coaching staff to help with the players' growth, as well as the mental side of things. From analysts and people from the esports side of things, we are the favorites, along with C9, to contest TL. Gotta see growth in the team as a whole. Jordan, if I was a betting man, I'd bet you'd rate this take highly. Where do you come down?
Cole, 100%. I wrote it myself. BC, my ghostwriter.
I lied. It's actually written by Jordan, submitted to his own show.
No, he ghostwrote it. Yeah. No, I think that's a very measured approach. The one hedge I'll put on that is if we continue to show the same types of vulnerability that C9 was able to expose, I will become more concerned as the split goes. That is what I'll be keeping an eye on. That's what I'm always interested to see. How solved are we? They solved us for one best of 5 series, and it was very narrowly solved. And I have a lot of confidence that we can address those things still. So that's my thought. I think it more or less lines up with BC. Yep.
Fair. We can always count on BC for a well-measured take, which is why he's a moderator.
That's right.
I want to read this one from our local resident Swede, Erdoro, who says, my biggest concern is that people maybe won't remember our dominant first games and will just point it to C9 playing bad in the beginning. Jordan, did we fail this Erdoro test? Did we just say C9 played bad in the beginning? Did we forget about the dominant games that we played? Or do you disagree with what he's saying?
No, I think that it's a legitimate concern. It happens anytime. Was it a fluke? It happens anytime a lot of teams do anything well, but specifically 100 Thieves. People love to talk about 100 Thieves aren't actually good at esports, guys. I think that I'll give us a clean bill of health on this. I think we did a fine job of talking about the things that were strong, and in fact saying that if we continue those things, the series would have gone our way, down to just a few critical decisions. So I think we passed. Erdor, you can let us know in chat if we passed. Yeah. And I haven't seen a ton of that, to be honest. I don't feel like I've heard a ton of that where people are already dismissing us in the way that sometimes you see teams like especially recently our Valorant team being just wholesale dismissed, even though they've won, a major event. So
and played without Nitro.
Right. So yeah, I'm not overly concerned about that at this point. I think that as I've listened to the analysts and Twitter chatter, I do think that people are encouraged by what they're seeing from us early. And I'm not seeing anybody say it was all fluke.
Okay, fair enough. I guess I'm a little guilty because I said I think C9 should have won game 2, and I still think that. So I don't consider game 2 a dominant win from us. Game 1 was absolutely a dominant win. No ifs, ands, or buts. So I'm happy about that. But Erdoro is reasonable take.
Yeah. Always a concern.
We already hit the kind of reverse sweep DNA kind of thing, but I did want to point out that Little Thieves called us the Falcons of LCS, which we're going to have to keep a close eye on because that would hurt so much if that becomes true. All right, and one more take, this one from Joe Alito, who says, my take for tonight, it's better to have 2 losses in the next 3 weeks to either C9, TL, and maybe EG if they have a really good day, than if we got to 8-1 and lose to a bottom tier team. Okay, so just repiecing that together, he would rather lose more games to C9, TL, and EG than just to lose a single game to a bottom tier team. He says, I want consistency, the ability to perform at the level where we are beating teams we are supposed to, and being competitive with the teams that are at or better than our level. Even if a Blaze Olive decides to be faker against us, we shouldn't lose to their level of macro and overall talent. Jordan.
Yeah, I like this. I like this take. You pick good ones, Cole. What can I say? I think I agree, because here's what is. This is again like the C9 situation, right? You go 100-0 against everybody, and then suddenly you start dropping games against teams you really shouldn't be dropping. It's not like C9 went and started losing games against the next closest teams. They were dropping games to everybody. And so I would look at this and say, if we just are fresh off a few games lost, tough games to C9, and then we start the spring split with losses against team that we were handily beating in lock-in, or teams of that caliber, then I think we have actually a lot to be concerned about. Because what that would tell me is the solve that was deployed has been reproduced, Cole, and other teams are putting it into use. And that can be a snowball. It can be a really bad situation. We've seen it play out with our team just last year. So, yes, I would greatly agree with Joelito on that one. I think I'm okay with us not being the best team in the league yet. I'm not going to sound the alarm on that one.
Yeah.
But for sure, we have to, and this has to be the difference between this roster and past rosters. We have to be a solidly middle of the pack. And by that, I mean 5th at worst, right? Like, we cannot start dipping down.
I think what 6, you 7, mean 8, is top 5. Half then.
You could say it's so 6 with 1 half dozen the other.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
But like, I need our floor to be 5th. And I think that is what basically the expectation is, especially after lock-in.
I need the ceiling to be the roof, is what we're saying.
I need the ceiling to be outer space.
By the way, Dr. Nolly says the loss was actually a fluke, and we are actually the best team in the world, 2022 world champions. Then he corrected it to 2021. I'm good with that take too. No, but I think it's okay to lose early, like, to the good teams. I think I'm with Joel on this. Like, I'm good with that. Yeah, go for it.
I'm not saying that I want us to finish 5th.
I know.
I want us on our worst day to be playing as the 5th best team in the LCS. Because I think I fully expect that we can do much better than finishing. I think finishing 5th would be a massive disappointment at this rate. So I just want to make sure that's clear. I'm not saying that we should be happy with 5th. I'm saying that at our worst, we should look like approximately the 5th best team in the league.
That rings better for me. Okay.
Yes.
So, well, we're talking about games that we have upcoming. Let's just talk about this weekend, because one of those 3 teams that Joel is calling for us to either, to be competitive, possibly lose, it's okay to, is EG, who's actually our opening game of the real season, right? So we play EG on Friday. We've got CLG on Saturday, and then Dignitas on Sunday. Jordan, EG, CLG, Dignitas, what's happening?
EG is very, very interesting because it's kind of the other of the final teams that we have not played, right?
Mm-hmm.
We played C9, saw how that went, played TL, got the better of them. EG is an unknown. I to be honest, I don't love how we match up against EG. I think Impact has shown that he can give someday. He can be kind of a someday foil. He's just super steady. He's a rock. Jizuke, I think he's one of those players who could give Damonte a very bad game, and if he's at his best. So, overall, like, I'm not saying I'm not bullish on our team up against them, but there are enough pieces in EG that make me worried that I'm going to be worried.
Well said.
So, yeah, I will say though that we deploy our best look week 1, day 1. You want to show what you're made of, put your best foot forward. I think we get the dub against EG.
So for me, we're gonna bot diff these guys. It just feels like we're gonna bot diff these guys really bad. I agree to what you're saying about Impact. He's kind of historically like neutralized Someday for whatever reason. It's like it's really hard to make Someday perform within the bounds of a normal human being, and Impact seems to do that.
Right.
With some sort of regularity. So
one of those rare abilities.
And he doesn't I wouldn't say that as if he outplays Someday or something. It's just like, for whatever reason, whatever play style things that happen, maybe it's like the tank into tank matchups or whatever, it just Someday just doesn't seem to pop off against him. So there's that, but I just think we bot diff him. So I'm going that we get the dub against EG, which I'm going to have to keep my eye on chat and see if they're shocked that I say that, because usually I'm the pessimist here and they're our strongest looking opponent this week. I think we get the dub. Jordan, CLG.
Dub. We don't pick Lilia twice. Cole, lightning doesn't strike twice.
Oh man. They weren't even full strength against us, right?
I don't think so. I think they're still figuring some things out. They had subs in, all that. But yeah, I mean, there's your trap game, Cole. You said this last time we played the CLG. It's a trap game. Would you call this a trap game as well?
Why does it still feel like a trap game to me? I don't know why. I was Prophet Cole last time, but it still feels like a trap game to me again. But I think we win this one too. I think what you said is pretty true. Like, I expect us to do what we do this week. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think we're going to be like, oh, let's like go back to the drawing board and, fix all this stuff. I don't think it's like that. And I think like our success rate at doing that has been so high that I don't think CLG is really built to handle that. All we got to do is just have a solid draft where we prevent some of their strengths. Like, we prevent Wild Turtle from getting something that he's great on. We prevent Pobelter from getting any like crazy disadvantage matchup in the middle. And for me, it's like, it's going to be hard to lose to him. Yeah.
I would be very disappointed. I mean, look, Wild Turtle had a fantastic Jhin game against us. And like, if he lacks Jhin, I'm going to be a little worried, just honestly. But I think this is the thing for me. Until someone shows us that they can keep us off our best look, I'm going to be pretty bullish on our best look against a lot of these teams, which have had a harder time putting together a super strong, consistent lineup, right? So, for me, I think that's kind of what I'm using to guide week 1 expectations is, like you said, you can't just ban out best look for us, which is a great strength to have at this point in the season. And so, let's see if we can bring that back. I expect we will be able to.
All right, and then the third matchup of the week is 100T versus the Ghosts of Christmas Past and Fake Gods Saligo and Aframu. I think I'll start with this. I think that what was said on the dive about Dignitas was kind of true, in that they looked stronger than they actually finished in the lock-in to me, which surprised me. I thought I was surprised that they didn't advance because they looked stronger. Dardoch looked really good. Neo, maybe not so much. Saligo struggled a little bit, but he was solid in a couple games. I don't know. So I don't think they're like as bad as their lock-in performance made them look. I still can't see us losing though. Dardoch is going to have to absolutely own closer for them to have a chance.
Which feels like a very unlikely thing.
Yeah. So that to me, it's like I just can't see it otherwise. So
maybe this is the Dardoch Udyr showcase reel, Cole.
if we let Udyr through for this game, I will lose my mind.
Fire.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
But so Jordan, that means my name is Cole Eisenbarger. I am a 100T fan, and I'm predicting a 3-0 weekend for the team, which have I ever predicted a 3-0? When the rare occasion when we've played 3 games, have I ever thought we'd win them all? I don't know. Probably not.
A 2-0 is
this is
rare.
it. The 3-0 prediction, I'm locking it in.
It's locked, Cole. Double lock.
And you, double lock, you said.
Now it's official.
So both of us 3-0 this weekend. I cannot wait to podcast next week and explain how we lost all 3 games. This is going to be fantastic. Like if we go 0-3, I got to quit. Like the curse is me. There's no other explanation.
Yeah. It's Lily Arise, and we leave Udyr open.
I literally had like a reaction to hearing that out loud. Like I was like, whoa. It cannot happen, bro. It cannot.
It can't. Honestly, I don't think it can. I don't think it can happen, but we've been fans long enough to know
how these things
anything
go.
Can happen or anything is possible.
Well, look, I think that we will be here next weekend saying the same thing that we're saying now, which is we got a good team.
Yeah.
We got a good team. This weekend didn't go how we wanted it to. There were some procedural questions to address. They're addressable, though. I think we've got a good team. I think we're going to have a good season. I think we have a very good shot at nabbing a world spot. And this is the week where that run officially begins. We officially start working towards the goal of making worlds. And that's exciting, man. Did we feel this way for the past 2 years? Not so much. Maybe at the beginning of 2019. But since then, it hasn't felt like we had a real shot at contending for it. And we do. We do.
Yeah. It's a good place to be. We got to keep getting better. But if we keep getting better, the prize is not that we get to make playoffs. It's that we get to go to Worlds. So there is upside. And it's exciting stuff. It's a good time. It's fun. It's going to be fun.
It will be a fun split. As long as we don't get reverse swept and I have to leave.
Yeah.
So
the leave conditions are piling up, people. I'm getting kind of worried over here.
I'm creating outs for myself. Pretty soon it's going to be like, look, if we lose to Team Liquid, I'm done.
If we lose even one Drake this weekend, I'm out. I got to go.
All right. That'll do it for us this week, guys. 3 games per week. That is our new reality. All right. 3 games per week. All season long. Can't wait. There's a lot of League of Legends to be played. A lot of dubs to be gotten by the dub getters that are 100 Thieves. Thanks for being here with us. We'll do League of Legends Rec League this Thursday. So be on the lookout for that. Follow us on Twitter. If you don't already, make sure you get that announcement and come into our Discord for fun with all of us. That's it for this week. So we love you. We miss you already.
Raid.
And we'll go into raid mode after Jordan says take care.
Take care.
There it is. There he is. All right. Let's rate it up. Who are we rating? Who are we rating, everybody? Who's live?
The Tanner time zone is live.
Yeah, let's pick someone else. Not a good week for that. Who else is live? Who we got? I'm scrolling through this list here.
Scrolling. Jess.
Jess is live. Is she? She's not popping up. Okay, yeah. All right. Let's do Jess. We're big Jess fans here. Follow Jess. Dot, please. Yeah. Follow Jess. Dot.
Follow when you get there.
When you get there. Let's begin the raid, everybody. We'll see you very soon. Raid begins now. And everybody watch 100 Next and when that's possible. And Academy. That'll be good too. The raid doesn't seem to be working. Ooh, let me try that again. It it counts up who's all with you and people are chatting, but it's like no raid numbers are showing. So, it's doing it again.
0.
So we're just going to start the raid anyway and just hope that everybody's along for the ride.
Yeah. And if it doesn't raid you, just leave our stream and
just go to Jess. Dot right now.